Hey y'all, how are you doing today? I am Stephanie Van Bark and I'm a small business owner here today with yet another unique hairstyle. Hope you like it. I'm gonna keep them coming. So today's show, actually, we've talked to this young lady before, but when we talked to her before, she was a part of a partnership, and we have asked her to come back because we want to learn more about how she's operating as a solopreneur. So let me introduce her now. Meet Retha Boone-Fye. Hey, how are you?
Hi. How you guys doing?
Great, great, great. Thank you so much for joining us again.
My pleasure.
So I told them that you came here before as a partnership. So I'd like for you to reintroduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do.
Actually, my name is Retha Boone-Fye, as you can see, and I'm the CEO of Healing Leaf International, which was previously known as Healing Leaf Miami. I have been in this business space now since about 2000, I want to say 2017, 18. And this kind of like evolved as a result of me getting into my study of mindfulness. It actually was twofold. My husband suffers with, he was having some knee problems and he didn't want to use a lot of drugs. So I started looking into natural, what I call naturalceuticals to ease that pain. And I got into what's called CBD, cannabidiol, which is a hemp derivative of the medical marijuana, but it does not involve the marijuana that gets you high, unfortunately, for some people. So what it is it's a medical aspect of the hemp plant, and hemp really has been around for many years. Mm-hmm. So now getting back to Healing Leaf, when I got into mindfulness, which was about 2017 or so, a girlfriend of mine introduced me, and it really saved me a lot. So without going into a whole lot of detail, because I'll give you the whole interview right now, I kind of got into the Healing Leaf International as a result of going into looking for a holistic way to heal as opposed to just going to the doctor
and getting drugs.
Which
is an interesting, so how is business? Because CBD hit the scene, what I feel like is recently, and it's just boomed. I think when we talked before, at that point, the major drugstores, retailers had not gotten into it, but now they themselves are in that space. So how is that affecting your business?
Well, it's really not, because I've not blown up to the extent that I want to. As a matter of fact, my mindfulness aspect of the business has really been a lot more involved. As I said, when I got into mindfulness, I looked at it from the standpoint of I wanted to create an atmosphere, a whole universe of wellness. But I tell you what's happening is people now, I mean, initially when I got into it, it was so funny because people were like, "You selling weed?" Like, no, I'm not selling weed. Okay. Right?
Yes,
okay. And to be honest, those people who were selling weed prior to it becoming proprietary, okay, which is what better. Actually, they've been locked out, particularly people of color. There are several organizations called Minorities for Medical Marijuana, who are in the position of, for example, if you want now to open a shop to dispense medical marijuana, it's so expensive that you cannot do it. It's extremely expensive. So from that aspect, I did not want to get into the marijuana aspect of it. I wanted to go more into the CBD.
Right.
And when I had to explain the difference between marijuana and CBD. I explained it this way. I said, okay, it's kind of like collard greens and kale. All right. So it's in the same
difference.
Yes, it's in the same family, but there are some differences. So with the CBD, they take out the psychological and the stuff that kind of gets you high. They took that out, and it's more or less for a medical standpoint. So I actually have people calling me now saying, "Hey, Ree, I've got a pain in my shoulder. I've got pain somewhere else. Do you have any of the roll-ons, or do you have any of the gummies and things of that nature?" So that's one of the things. And one of the other things that I do is I typically do not sell what I've not tried myself.
Okay, that's good.
There are different aspects. For example, if you want to go into the gummy aspect, that to me, if you go into the Delta 8, be prepared, because I took one and I was like, no, this is not for me. I really would like to do the ones that deal with physical pain and rub on the gels and things of that nature in the spray, and the stuff that really brings relief. I do it under the tongue. There's tincture that you can put under the tongue to help you sleep and help you relax, things of that nature. I have a seltzer that I sell, and it really helps. I'll have a cold seltzer before I go to bed, and I just sleep like a baby.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll have to have a conversation with you about that sleeping thing, because I wake up in the middle of the night all the time.
Yeah.
So first, let's talk about the partnership, and then I'd love to talk about sort of the operations, because as you talk about how you sell, I'm sure that's had to shift some from the partnership to the solopreneur process. I guess I'll start with what sort of made you two decide, okay, we're going to go into this as a partnership. And did you sort of have that sit down formal conversation about how this was going to operate as a partnership?
I take full ownership of the fact that did not happen initially. So if you are going to do it and you are going to be a partnership, then I suggest that you do that initially. I had the idea of going into this business, and I know that my partner, she's my former partner now, had that expertise in terms of the marketing, in terms of those kinds of things, and the business acumen, which I did not have. I'm a great salesperson, but as far as the mechanics are concerned and setting up and those kinds of things, I lack that skill, and I recognize that I lack that skill. So I wanted someone who could bring that to the table. What I think, if you are going to be looking at a partnership, there are things that you need to sit down and discuss prior to entering into that formal agreement, which we did have a formal agreement.
And a great formal agreement.
Yes, we had to break we actually dissolved, which is why I went from Healing Leaf Miami to Healing Leaf International, because I had built up a brand with Healing Leaf, and I did not, and I started expanding it actually, because I had people from out of the country who've asked me to make sure that they get the product as well. And I was like, hey, I might as well pivot and do it from an international standpoint. I have to be careful though, because I wanted to make sure, for example, that it was legal where it was, because you don't want to get yourself into a position where you're shipping things and then you find out later that you're liable legally for things that you're not supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're gonna have to come back to that issue, international piece of it, because I just even statewide, I can even imagine that there are some challenges, because there's some states,
because there are some states that it's not legal yet. It's becoming more mainstream, and that's the other thing. I had to really educate our people, people of color in particular, because again, they were very apprehensive. Oh, I can't do that, and but then now, like I said, now they're calling me. Hey, that rub-on that you gave me, hey, it really worked. Hey, maybe I can get some more. Maybe I'll try the seltzer to help me sleep. So these are the kinds of things that are becoming more mainstream. And that was one of the hurdles that I had to overcome, convincing our people that this was a good thing for them. Because all before, we're so ready to run to the doctor and get these pharmaceuticals as opposed to nutraceuticals. And see, we have a background of what we call going in the yard to get tea.
Yeah, we do. That is fun. You're right.
Yeah, so this should not have been something that was way out of the whack. We ended up, for example, growing up, I never knew what Lipton was. Tea was in the yard. We had nut tea, we had lemongrass, we had all different types of tea. We boiled some leaves, we put some honey or some sugar in it, and we had tea. So this was not.
When I had an upset stomach, we drink Coke, just a Coca-Cola.
Exactly. So these are the things that we had to understand, that we were actually going back to the way that we were prior to all of this medical stuff that came into play.
And I think it has to do with that. We tend to be a religious people, and it was linked to what?
I tell you, without naming names, I'll tell you, this one young lady called me. Well, she's a seasoned citizen. And it's funny because when I first started, I told her, I said, you're telling me that you have this pain. I want to give you something to try. Oh, oh my goodness. That's oh my God. Listen, one of my best customers now, okay? She calls me, she said, I'm out of that cream. That rub that you gave me. Yes, no problem.
Drop it off on the way home.
Drop it off. Yeah. So that basically has been what I'm in the process of doing now. As I said, I'm rebranding. So which means that I now have to get myself to a point where I want my shop online. I want to reactivate social media and those kind of things. So I'm going in that direction, as well as thinking about opening up a physical shop. Okay. So it's kind of where I am right now.
So when did you what was sort of the overarching, well, first of all, how long did the partnership exist?
From about 2018 to last year.
And when you start to notice there were some challenges, I think you and I talked briefly about some red flags. One, what were some of those overarching challenges? And then did you seek counseling? I've heard of partnerships where they've sought counseling, or did you just know it was time to go separate ways?
Over a period of time, we did sit down a couple of times to try to resolve. And I think basically both of us had A-type personalities, okay, very strong personalities. And if I made a decision, I didn't expect for it to be questioned because I felt that I was making it in the best interest of the business. Well, if someone else is making that same assumption about the decisions that they make, then you have a conflict. So it was at a point where, well, do I do this? Because if I do this, then maybe it's not going to be taken the way that it's supposed to be taken. And when I found myself second guessing everything that I felt needed to be done, I said, let's sit down and talk. So we talked about it. It was almost like, going for marriage counseling, let's see, this is a partnership. Let's see if we can work through this and make sure that, well, like you said, there comes a time when you say, you know what, this is not working. It's not working. So rather than it devolve into a situation where it's acrimonious, I think that you really need to take time to say, I need to find out what it is that I'm doing to make this partnership not work, and what it is that I feel that person is not doing, and sit down and have that honest conversation. And if you're mature enough, you understand that. And I think a couple of times it was like, let's try it again. And then finally I just said, it's not working. And I don't want it to get to the point where it's contentious. I really did not want that to happen.
Did you feel like it was a failure, or just this a bump in the road?
No, it was just time to move on. Wow. My partner had an idea of what direction she felt it should go in, and I had an idea of the direction that I felt that it should go in. So when we sat down and had that conversation about the direction, it was like, this is not, we're seeing two different things and two different ways to go. Okay. So I don't want to be placed in a position of saying, she made me mad. No, it wasn't that way. I just got to a point where I said, this isn't working.
So what did you do to dissolve the partnership? Since you had sort of a formal agreement, I'm sure you had to go through some legalities as well. How did you work out those dynamics?
Well, we had a partnership, so we dissolved the partnership. You had to let go of all of the legal means in terms of separation of the accounts, closing off all of the accounts, getting the FEIN number disconnected, the bank account, all those things. And all of that was done in writing. And we signed an agreement at the very end that said that we're not holding each other responsible or liable for anything outside of what's going on. And we split the bank account. We paid the accountant, we paid the attorney, and that was it.
Okay. And had you had an agreement that you would take on this name?
Well, it really was that had not been copyrighted or anything like that. So I went through the state to see whether or not Healing Leaf International
Okay.
was still, was an entity, and it was not. So I just went ahead and did that.
Okay. So I would imagine that means you had to rearrange your operations. You have to function differently because I'm a solopreneur, and when you're head bottle washer and the CEO, you gotta do
You
things.
got to do everything. You got to wake up in the morning and sweep out and everything else till it's done. So
Exactly.
and the challenge for me right now, to be honest, is that this is something that I'm doing, but I'm also a full-time employee.
Right.
So we have to make absolutely sure that there are no boundaries crossed, that I don't have any conflict of interest. And so that to me is something that I have to wrestle with, because if, for example, I'm going to be making a presentation, I make absolutely sure that I separate it and that I'm taking away from the office, as opposed to saying, well, I'll just kind of go and do this and come. No,
Right.
I don't want anything to interfere with my peace of mind, which is very, very important to me, and pivots into, which is why I started studying mindfulness.
Okay. And so you were able to, so you talked about mindfulness, and you said mindfulness actually is probably the revenue stream that is the strongest for you right now.
Yes.
I guess I want to understand, there's a products piece. Well, what is mindfulness? What is that service that you're providing?
Well, you have to understand that mindfulness is a scientifically based system of calming the nerves, calming the self, calming the situation, and bringing the focus back into self, not from a selfish standpoint, but being conscious and aware of your surroundings, of your mindset, and things of that nature. I actually studied mindfulness. I went to, and it's funny because prior to COVID, a lot of people didn't know what Zoom was. Okay.
Yeah,
This so happened that the year before, actually in 2017, a friend of mine introduced me to mindfulness, and I took an online course, mindfulness for beginners, and then I took mindfulness essentials, which pivoted into taking a year-long course online and in person. I attended the mindful schools out of Emeryville, California, and they had their retreat. We had a year-long on course, and we also went to a retreat, a week-long retreat. Now that to me was an experience.
Okay.
And it came along at a very pivotal time for me, because at the time I was appointed guardian of my mom, who had dementia and who had a benign brain tumor that caused her to make all kinds of difficult decisions in the wrong way. So in trying to balance that, I wondered, how am I going to manage all of this, try to keep this business together, try to, do what I'm doing full time, plus taking care of her. I found that mindfulness pretty much put things in focus, to the extent that while I was doing the mindfulness course, I in fact, the week before I was supposed to go for my week-long retreat in Colorado, we went to a place called Red Feather Lake, Colorado. I did not know how I was going to do that. Fortunately, I had a supportive husband who said, listen, your mom's going to be fine. You go, And when I got there, the very first thing they told us was, you got to shut your phone down. You cannot call anyone, at least for 24 hours and stuff. And I'm like, how am I going to do this?
Right.
But by the time that week was done, I was convinced that I had made the right decision. And that was the beginning. When we came back, we had to do it online for that year. And then going back, we did another week long. It was a retreat up in Red Feather Lake, Colorado, which was up in the mountains. It was a campground situation. I opted for the luxury of camp. I don't do camping. Okay. I opted for the luxury, right? The room.
I'm so glad you said that. Come on, saw the look on my face.
No, mommy does not do camping. Okay, I do glamping. All right, so I
Right,
went.
right.
Yeah,
Because
so
I
I
know
went.
Retha a little bit, and I ain't mad at her. I'm gonna do
Yeah,
the same thing too. I
yeah,
need the luxury version myself.
yeah, I did that. So that week was really very, very, how can I, life changing for me,
Okay.
because I had done the online for the year. I go for the closeout, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, what am I doing here? I mean, we're walking around in the woods, doing a silent retreat. We can't talk to anybody. We're just doing what we need to do. And next thing I know, they're telling us you cannot go outside after dark because there are bears out there and stuff. And I'm like, why am I here?
Right.
And then on top of that, I ate something that did not agree with me, and I went to the infirmary, and all they had was some Tums. So I took the Tums, and the next morning I woke up, my tongue was completely black. I'm like, oh no, and there's no hospital around. So
Right.
I went to the mess tent, and I said, well, I'll do the old fashioned thing. I'll just go get me some tea.
Right.
And on the tea bag, there was this little saying, and I'm like, why am I here? And on that tea bag, there was a little, I have little notes on tea bag, and it said, it is the mind that makes the body. And it was attributed to Sojourner Truth.
Oh,
And
nice.
I said, that's why I'm here. That's
So
why.
you turned a passion into a product.
Yes. So once I did that,
What are the services?
I'm sorry.
What are the services you're offering? You take people through meditative or mindfulness systems?
Yes, there is a system. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just got through about, I guess about 3 months ago,
Okay.
mindfulness for the Miami Children's Initiative. And what I did is I went to Miami Northwestern High School in their after school program, which means that I took off. I went after work, and I taught mindfulness for an 8-week course for high school sophomores to seniors,
Nice.
and taught them mindfulness for people of color or students of color.
Nice.
At the end of and I tell you, it was an exciting experience. Those kids were so funny. They were like, well, we just sitting here and being quiet. I said, and in fact, at one point I had to tell them, I said, all right, let's put these phones down for a minute, just kind of, calm down, and let's meditate. So it got to the point where about the third week, when I would come in, they would call me Miss B. Oh, here's Miss B. Turn the lights off. We got to meditate, And it really got to a point where they understood that it was extremely important for them to be quiet, to quiet their minds and their spirits, okay, and to concentrate. And one of the things that I taught them, and I got this from a very good friend of mine, is that you have to put your capacity-driven thoughts on things that matter the most, as opposed to going all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and the graduation portion of it was, I took them on a field trip down in Homestead. These were kids that had, most of them, out of the 12 kids that went, 10 of them had never even been out of that neighborhood.
Wow.
And we went down to Homestead to this sanctuary, and we did a half-day retreat.
Oh, nice.
Not only did they put their phones down, I have pictures of them, just kind of like enjoying nature. They would ask me stuff like, this is a real tree, a real pepper tree. There's a pepper growing on this tree. I said, yes. So it was, and it was exciting for me because I had the opportunity to kind of tune into them. Right. And I told them, you guys are at a very, very, very critical point in your lives, and the decisions that you make now are going to impact you probably for the rest of your lives. So I urge you to quiet yourself and to determine what it is that you want to do, and put your capacity-driven thoughts in that direction.
So wait, okay, so I might be calling you after this, because I told you I need a little help with that.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, if you could speak to since you've been on both sides of the aisle of a partnership, what would you perceive are the challenges and the benefits of both having a partner and or solo entrepreneurship?
Well, at least with a partnership, you have someone to share responsibilities. That's the plus. The minus is if that person and you do not see in the same direction, then it's a little difficult to share those responsibilities when you have not outlined them. Okay. So I urge people who are considering or do have partners to sit down and have that deep conversation and always recognize and remember to practice mindfulness. Right. Because what happens is you think about it and you think about that person and you may get upset about something they said or something that they did. But instead of concentrating on what pissed you off, okay, concentrate on the business and what is best and the best interest for both of you, as opposed to trying to be, I have a saying, some people, when you talk, they listen. Some people, when you talk, they listen, but they're not really listening. They're waiting for their response to give back that response.
Yes, that's true. I agree with that. And y'all, I'm sorry, my cat is in the way. Well,
I know this cat is so funny.
He is really fat. Like you can only see half my face.
You are not paying attention to me, and that is obvious.
He did it twice, by the way. So then what would you say you've learned as a solopreneur as the advantages and disadvantages? I can speak from that perspective, and I know exactly what you're going to say.
You mean the advantage of being a solopreneur?
Yeah, and the disadvantage and the challenges.
The advantage is that you're seeing your vision, and the disadvantage is you try to do it all, and sometimes it does not work.
It's a very tricky thing. You almost need to lean into others to get advice on how to manage your day.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've done, and it's one of the best things I've done, is I've hired a personal assistant. And this young lady is someone who actually I've known for years. And she's very astute in terms of keeping me focused. She'll be like, okay, I looked at your schedule. This is what we said you were going to do. This is what you should be doing. So let's go from here. And that helps me tremendously to keep me focused because I tend to be all over the place. And she's like, did you do so-and-so and so? No, bad girl, do it. And let's get it out of the way.
Okay.
That's so good. That helps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I because, I've told you this before, that the time thing is a challenge, and I definitely have to get myself in line, and I have such a hard time doing it, but I'm going to get there. I'm a work in progress, as Steve likes to say.
Well, you got to learn how to practice mindfulness.
I do. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like I said, we get off there, we're going to have to have a little conversation. So you spoke a little bit earlier about having a full-time job, and that there's some challenges there with regards to making sure you're keeping them separate. Have you found that, or do you feel like the industry that you're in can have some concerns with regards to your full-time
job? No, not really. Actually, what I do on a daily basis complements what I do in my personal mindfulness. I have found that I can operate my mindfulness practice in such a way that it does not interfere with what. In fact, I use mindfulness a lot of times when I'm dealing with people, when I'm dealing with situations. So it actually is complementary as opposed to being, what the word am I looking for?
Or areas of concern. Yeah.
Or interferes. It does not interfere with what I do.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if I were looking at what would be your checklist of now looking back on it? And you were saying we would have this conversation, but even before you have the conversation, would you say that there is a checklist of things you should be looking for in a person? Is it a vibe? Should it be friends? Like, how would you go about it differently this time, even before you had the conversation?
I think one of the things that I would have done differently was to sit down and outline what direction the business should go in and how you anticipate going in that direction. If, for example, we're going to do a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plan, what do you intend to contribute to make sure that that happens? And how do you see the business being set up within the next 3 to 5 years?
And find someone that complements that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's very difficult because particularly you're a solopreneur. You make the decisions for your business. You make a lot of decisions. It will be difficult, particularly for women of color. And I won't just say women of color, but women to make a determination that they want a partner, especially if they don't understand what that person brings to the table. So you have to look at what that person brings to the table as well. Like I understand now, I learned a lot from my partner. I will give credit. I give credit where credit due. I learned a lot that I was not on the business perspective of it, taking care of the books, taking care of the legals, taking care of those kinds of things, scheduling, things of that nature. So I've learned from that. And for that, I'm extremely grateful, which is why I understood that I would do better with a personal assistant as opposed to a partner.
Right. Somebody that can help you move through the operational piece.
Yes.
So I want to say it's been very enlightening, as I shared with you, I think earlier before. We had one other person on this show who had to dissolve a partnership, but there was also a marriage. So this is a little bit different, right? So I was like, this is going to be very interesting to really sort of get a sense of how, maybe friends would dissolve something, but still you are friends.
Yeah, we had lunch a couple of weeks ago, and I think one of the things that we really didn't talk that much about the business. We talked about all the stuff that was going on with us, and she wished me the best, I wish her the best, and we were good.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, where can we find you? Because we want to make sure that everybody knows how to find you for both if you are looking for mindfulness services and or the CBD. Correct.
I actually, what I've been doing now is I'm in the process of updating my website. Of course, I have to do some changes on that. But for right now, by email, I can be reached at rethaboone@comcast.net or by my personal cell, which is 786-355-8598. Again, that's Retha, RETHABOONE, @comcast.net. or 786-355-8598. I hope to have that rectified within the next month or two. Where I have, because one of the challenges, and this was a challenge even with the business, was operating from a website because of the legalities. You have to look into that. You have to look into a lot of things when it comes to that. So I'm in the process of going through that and signing agreements with providers of some of my services. For example, the seltzer, I don't manufacture it, but I have a company and I've developed a relationship with them as well as another company to get my products from. And I don't have to go way out to Colorado or California or any place like that. So I'm working on those agreements. And as I said, signing documents and making sure that they are legally defensible if in case anything goes, and making sure that happens. But for right now, they can give me a call. I drop off, meet you, pick up, doesn't matter.
Very cool. Okay. So congratulations. I really think it's brave, actually, to step out on your own anyway. But to have come from a partnership and really delve back into the business and still successful at it.
Thank you.
So,
and like I said, my mindfulness is really taken off because not only do I offer mindfulness for organizations, I offer mindfulness for corporations. I've done mindfulness sessions for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, their multicultural office. Yes, I've done them for schools. I've done them for organizations such as I guess one of the ones would be the Miami Children's Initiative and others. Okay.
Okay. I would definitely like to actually, if I think of some other, because I actually am a part of an organization that might be looking at something that it's like that. So I definitely share that
Well,
with.
one of the things that we're going to be doing is mindfulness retreats. And I've partnered with an organization in Homestead that
Okay.
has space for that. And that's coming up hopefully in January.
Please let me know, because two things. I want you to let me know when that happens, because for personal reasons, and I'll share it. But also when your website is launched, please, I'll share that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure, we share that information. So I want to thank you very much. Don't leave right after I say bye to the guests, because I have an idea for you with regards to social media that might be helpful.
Sure. Sure. All right.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, please let us know how the business is going. I want to know.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hey, everybody. So thank you very much for tuning in again. This again is Just Talking Business, where we talk to business owners about how they thrive and survive and pivot. And we hope you are learning a wealth of information while you're tuning in. Please join us back here again next week. 7:30. I'm sorry, 5:30, which would be Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. I'm supposed to do my little tag. I wasn't prepared. There you go. See you later.